Hey family, the team and I are thankful that you are watching our episode today. If you love what you hear, please subscribe to our channel below. We launch episodes every first and third Wednesday of the month. Come and join our community. Let's learn and grow together. Peace. So what's been on your mind lately? What's on your mind in a day-to-day basis right now?
Is that how we're starting?
Yeah.
Straight from the beginning.
Straight from the beginning.
Straight from the beginning. What's on my mind? Wow. That's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Very loaded question. What's on my mind? Today or in general?
Today.
Today? Just getting through the day. Getting through the day. Weekend coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then what's on my mind in general?
Yeah. Like any goals you have, like anything you want to do next besides career, like anything you want to work on?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of goals, right? And I think
Mhm.
that sometimes one of my issues is trying to stick to something
Yeah.
for long enough to even see it through.
Mm.
Right, I think that's one of my, I guess if I had to say an issue, which I think is also a good thing, right? I'm young, my mind can bounce a million miles per second,
Yeah.
and I feel like I kind of can handle it. But yeah, I think that this is nonstop goals. I
Mhm.
think that the whole point is to continue to make new goals. Once you
Mhm.
reach that one goal, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means you probably create 3 or 4 or 5 more.
Yeah. I think the same thing with me too, because I have a lot of things on my mind as well. And we're like around the same age. And I have this podcast, and then I just became like a leader in a youth ministry, like the leader. Like there's no one above me besides the
Congrats.
pastor. Thank you. And like being on, like taking that role and taking that opportunity, that's been a lot on my mind. New job. So I wanted to get your mindset, like what are you focusing on? Because like you said, you have to focus on one thing, and it's
Yeah.
hard to do that when there's so many other things to take care of. But thank you for sharing that. And tell people who you are.
Yeah, my name is Christopher. Born and raised in the Bronx, 27 years old. I live in Yonkers now, so definitely a lot quieter. But I think that's a good thing. I think that I lived there for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And I think that was just about enough.
Enough time.
I think I think a day more than that 25 probably would have started go a little crazy, starting hearing some voices. But 25 years in the Bronx was really good. It was really fun. I still work in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my heart is.
Oh yeah, me too. For some reason I keep coming back. I was in Connecticut for a year, and I came back to the Bronx for some reason.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Bronx welcomes you and it misses you
with open arms, right?
Yeah.
You're the first. I've known you almost my entire life, and maybe when I was like 20, 21, I found out your name is spelled without an H.
Yes, it is. I actually have a very, very funny story.
Go ahead.
Because until I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know my name didn't have an H in it either.
Really?
Yeah. So until I was 17, me and you were on the same boat.
Yeah.
My U.S. passport, right, what the government gives you, has an H in it.
Okay.
Right. My life is complicated. So the reason I found out my name didn't have an H in it, and everything has an H, like my medical records, my school, everything. Was I was applying for college, and I was applying, I think, like for financial aid. And you have to put your name and you have to put your social. For whatever reason, it was saying that it wasn't matching. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
So from your social to everything else, it didn't match?
Yeah. So my social was legit.
Okay.
And my birth certificate had no H.
But everything else had the H.
Everything else, like, was with an H. Because obviously that stuff you kind of just fill in yourself.
Yeah.
And and all of a sudden, I'm like applying for colleges, and like it's not matching up. There's an error code. And you're the person that comes and helps you, like for the school, they go, well, you're putting in your spelling wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? And we both found out at that moment that I didn't have an H.
What?
I went home as a senior in high school and I told my mom, I have no H in my name. And she also found that out that day too.
So who named you when you were born?
The rumor is that my dad signed the birth certificate. So who knows what he was thinking? Who knows what he was? Yeah, but
do you think he forgot the H?
I honestly, I have no idea. And I really hope that he sees this.
Yeah.
So that he can explain to me what was on his mind. Or it's okay not to put an H, but just inform the family.
Inform the person who has no H.
Inform the family. So no H, Christopher. And
that's hilarious.
And now, because everything I've had to like make everything legit and formalize. So every time I'm on the phone or anything like that, I make it clear no H.
Yeah.
Just so that there's no confusion.
Yeah, there's no confusion, right? Especially when you had like a name for such a long time.
Exactly. Like but my U.S. passport that's valid right now still has an H.
Oh.
It expires next month, in 2 months. So I do plan on.
But you can still use it though, right? Like you can still go with it.
Yeah. It's like it's still valid. So when I renew it, I do plan on dropping the H officially.
Oh yeah, I think
it's the last thing in my life with an H.
I don't remember when I found that out, but I remember I was spelling your name Christopher on the phone, and I don't know. I think you told me probably one time. I was like, "Yo, I don't have an H in my name." I was like, "Oh, good to know."
Yeah.
I remember I just came back from Florida with one of my good friends who I've known for almost 12 years, right? And he shows me the so I took Spirit Airlines, right?
Okay.
So my Spirit Airlines trip, I probably would never.
But God be with you.
I'm never gonna use it again. I did it already.
Wait, but no. Sometimes though, if it's in the budget, it's in the budget.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're gonna do an emergency trip, like I think you go take it, right?
Yeah,
you're like, yo, I'm
absolutely.
not gonna spend like $300 to go on a trip. It's an emergency.
Yeah, you might as well spend 16 on a Spirit ticket. Yeah.
I wish it was 16.
Oh, okay.
But you know, he gives me the screenshot of the what's it called, the QR code that you get to check in with, and I look at it, and remember going to Florida, so I get it like mid-January. I get it like late January. And not Florida. We going in February, excuse me.
Okay.
So we're going in February, and then late January he sends me the QR code, and I look at it, and it has a different last name. It's spelled Leboi. So my last name is Leboy, and he puts an E. So I'm like, yo, bro, how long you known me?
Yeah, but
and then he puts my wrong birthday too.
All right.
What do you think about that? How would you feel if that happened to you?
But honestly though, I kind of think it's your fault.
Really?
Yeah, because like I've
But he paid for my.
No, I've been the planner in a lot of different trips, right?
Yeah.
And I always make sure you just send me your information. I'm not gonna guess.
Got it.
Because if I guess, you make mistakes like that, and then guess what? Then it's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I like people like send me all your information, send me your ID, your physical ID or your passport, and that's what I'm gonna use. For that reason, because I don't ever want to get blamed. And if all of a sudden you have a different name than you didn't tell anybody about, like in my situation when I was a kid, then it's your fault.
But if he never asked me for that information, he was the one that planned it.
I guess so.
Is that my fault?
I don't know. I would always send my information because I don't want any guess.
So I shouldn't have like trust somebody who's known me for 12 years, right? I should just like make sure always double check.
I guess so. I guess so. I know you know for next time.
I don't know for next time, or maybe someone else plans it.
Yeah, exactly. For next time.
It was him, by the way, just letting you know.
Wow. So he's in the room.
He's in the room. I don't talk behind people's back.
God, you should know better.
Yo, but I know you said you grew up from the Bronx, like we both did. Do you think the Bronx shaped you in any type of way?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and definitely like for the better, right? So I'm a police officer now. Been a cop now for 6 years. I work in the Bronx. I work very close to where I actually grew up, which is pretty cool, right? You know, seeing buildings that I remember is in middle school. And I can see this on camera because my mom definitely knows. I remember in middle school going to like house parties in certain projects that I now patrol as a cop. And I'm like, whoa. Like, what was this 14-year-old doing in these projects at like, 10, 11 o'clock at night? Yo, thank God, really thank God nothing happened to me. But, you
didn't know at that time how dangerous they were.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. And and it was a real deal. It was like pretty bad projects. But, also like when you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. Right. And that's the honest truth. But grew up in the Bronx, very, very fun stories. I remember I went to school right on Tinton. It's definitely a bad neighborhood. I remember getting out of school and having to leave with 5 or 6 of your friends. Because if you leave just you two,
you might get robbed and jumped.
You better get ready to run, man. Yeah. And that's what it was. And some of these kids, honestly, they thought it was funny too. Because our school, my middle school was right in front of a high school. And some of these kids used to literally run after us. And then when they get to us, wouldn't even do anything. wouldn't take our phone, wouldn't rob us, just torturing us, bro. Like real evil stuff. But I guess it's part of growing up the Bronx, and it teaches you how to be alert and how to stand up for yourself, and definitely how to be aware, and also how to decipher. Like this guy's a joke, right? This guy, they just looking for something to entertain them, and also like this guy's a real deal. Like you can tell like this guy's vibe, this guy's aura, he means a little more than chasing you and just gonna laugh when he gets to your face.
Do you think people need to have street smarts? Because we came from the Bronx, right? Not everyone has you can look at it as a privilege or the opportunity to live in the hood. and not have those street smarts. And you got people come from the suburbs, live there their whole lives, then go to the streets and don't have street smarts. Do you think like a lot of people should have that?
Not really, man. I think that like everybody has their own unique thing that makes them, right? Like there's a lot of people that are just very, very like intellectual people and just like can read books like up the wazoo, right? And honestly, I think that's that perfect balance. Yeah. Right? Like because at the end of the day, I think you need like that scholar sometimes. And then you also need that person that has that street smart, but maybe doesn't have like, you know, this insightful, scholarly like background and things like that. And I just think that it's a good mix. I think that's why, like in a workplace, if you're not the smartest guy in the world, maybe that's, you know, your street smarts or things like that. That's something you can use, you know, to you know, for your advantage.
That makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Because I you know, me growing up in the Bronx and then going into like the corporate world, giving that a try in the education system, I realized the beauty it is to have the street smarts and also quote unquote be the other side, the intellectual, the one who's like into the books. I'm not a book reader. That's number one. So I won't say book smarts. But like to have both, because I see it as a privilege, because then you go somewhere else and you see it says someone's off, you're like, all right, let's step away for a second because he's a little off. Or you know, like, no, we can stay around, but everybody else is running away. But nah, he's cool. He's just, you know, something's going on with it in his head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, that's what I think. That's what makes that nice blend.
Yeah. So when you came, like growing up, right there, we've all especially living in the Bronx, we've seen everything. We've seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
What is maybe one moment that has shaped you to be the person you are today?
Growing up in the Bronx, you mean?
Growing up in the Bronx or anything. It doesn't have to be in the Bronx.
I don't know, man. I think it's a lot of things. I can't really say it's one thing. I think that I was very, very blessed to have a lot of people in my life that have shaped me.
Yeah.
From like, you know, like people that I've met like in church growing up, or like even people that I've met in school, right? And having like those leaders in school that really took the time, I mean, said like, shout out to my high school principal and middle school principal. Guy was the man, right? Like, you know, I think he really, and me and like two other guys that went to that school, he really like invested in us. I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think that like, obviously like when you're from the Bronx, and especially my parents, you know, came here from Dominican Republic, you're kind of limited to a lot of things that you can see and things that you have access to. And I think that like, I remember being in high school and he was like, yo, you don't have a gym membership? Let's go.
Really?
Brought me to like New York Sports Club with him. Like, I don't know what I was doing. Like, we were young going to the gym, but like just getting in a habit. And I was going with my principal. You know what I mean?
That's crazy. Like if you do that now, that's a case.
I guess.
Crazy.
I guess if you...
Yeah, like you do it now. I'm thinking back then, I think it was cool, but like you do that now, like someone watches it, like your principal takes a student to the gym.
I guess. It's also a public gym. Well, 100%, 100%. There's definitely some weirdos out there.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
I'm not saying your principal's a weirdo. I'm just saying, like, if someone looks at it now, nowadays, it's crazy.
But of course, like, you hear stories now, you're like, what? There's definitely some weirdos out there. And also, I understand there's definitely a fine line with that. But I feel like, that's why I appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he took the risk, right, to, like, really, like, invest in me off the clock. Yeah. Like, the man was not getting paid. Yeah. And a bunch of other people that, like, I can credit to being in my life that literally did it just out of the love of their heart. And I definitely appreciate that tremendously. And I hope to be that for somebody else.
You know, you tend to not, what's it called? Let me ask you this instead. Did you appreciate that in the moment, or when you got older, you learned to appreciate it?
So I guess I appreciated it to as much as I understood it.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like I appreciated, like I saw the kind gesture, but I feel like now I see how long-term effects that had. Right? And to me, I feel like that's where I become way more appreciative. And I guess the way I would try to I guess manifest that in my own life is by passing it on.
Yeah.
Right? And like trying to do that to somebody else and trying to like uplift somebody else and like give them resources and access to certain things that they may not have.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's definitely how I see it.
Yeah, because I remember when I look back in my school life, you know, from like elementary school, middle school, high school. Like high school, I think was my worst. I didn't like all 4 years of high school. I just didn't like it. It was an all-boys school, number one.
Okay.
It was an all-boys. A little side note.
Many reasons why.
Many reasons, right?
Why not to like that.
And I was in an all-boys school for 7 years. So I did it in middle school and high school.
Okay.
Funny story, really quickly.
So how do you even know what a girl looks like?
I didn't. I knew what one or two girls looked like for the rest of my life. And we go to the same church, so it was the only thing I knew.
Yeah.
Then college came around, that was a different story. But you know, when going to high school, I didn't like it at all. I hated being there. It was ghetto first off, because going to an all boys school, right, on 3rd Avenue in the Bronx.
I'm
right?
familiar
with the area, right?
Yeah.
And it's a public school too, so it's weird. Like, it's an all boy public school, so people just coming in from the hood, like parents like, oh, take my son, train him up to be a man.
But like I've read some articles, and maybe it's like all, what's the word?
Hyped up.
Nah, yeah, maybe it's all like for show.
Yeah.
But I read some articles about that principal, and he was doing some pretty dope stuff, right? Because I think that to me,
the principal, the founder, because the founder is right now in the education system. He's the head of. Continue.
Okay, maybe, but I think that like Eagle is where he went to, right?
Correct.
I think that I 100% appreciate, and maybe like I appreciate more coming from my situation. My school was pretty cool, right? And like I have a lot of respect for my teachers and principals. But one of the issues is, and we could be 100% honest, they didn't know what they were doing, right? And I feel like a school like yours has a lot of structure. Yeah. You guys had an actual real uniform that to a certain degree, from the outside looking in, they actually like enforced.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like there's certain things, like you guys had to wear ties, right? Like I personally didn't know how to tie a tie until I was like 20 something. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like certain things, like maybe it was a clip on, but whatever, you get the point.
Yeah, I get the point.
I just feel like, to me, I could appreciate when a school is enforcing certain things, like an actual structure. And that's what it looks like, from the outside looking in, at least.
Yeah, I definitely can see that for sure. You definitely opened my eyes to that. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of structure in there. That was taken for granted, because now looking back into my high school days, like that, my high school days were the ones that transformed on how I thought.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's one time, I was always that kid that always could hang out with like the bad kids and always hang out with the smart kids. Like, it was always that balance. I was like that C average kid that was like, yo, you're not gonna have the grades to be with the smart kids, but you don't have the attitude to be with the bad kids. You know, like, we're gonna give you a chance. So I was always between both, especially in the lunchroom, and especially playing sports too. So I was able to be with everybody. And there was one time where like they had all the high average kids in this internship meeting in my senior year. They had like 7 or 8 of them. They were calling them out in the lunchroom, say, hey, come see us after lunch. And 8 of them came, and like I almost like 7 or all 8 of them were my friends. And I'm like, yo, like, why the hell wasn't, like, I've been thought about it, like, why am I not there? So I remember walking past that room, not going to class because I didn't want to be there. Walking past the room, and they were having the meeting, and it was with one of the college advisors. He oversees the entire Eagle, all the schools. And he was having a meeting about the internship, and he was telling them, hey, this is an internship that happens in the summers. You guys can have your first internship out of high school, your first job. And I was walking by, and I'm looking in, you know, because I see my friends there. And he was like, yo, do you want to come in? I was like, I looked around the room. I'm like, this is not a room I'm supposed to be in, but sure, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know why I said yes, but I did. I said, yes, I'll be in here. So he's explaining the internship. Remember, these kids have higher grades and averages than me. And when we all applied and we all went through with it by our senior year, only me and the valedictorian got in. It was crazy. It was only me and him that got in. They picked me, don't know why. And from that day on, being in that internship definitely shaped the way I thought about the world.
Yeah.
You know, because it was a first corporate job, and you had to realize it was in the financial district too. So I'm a kid from the hood going to the like Wall Street area, like you see the big difference. And it definitely shaped my mind. So I definitely can see that. And teachers, especially, shaping who you were. I remember I had a music teacher who made us, you know, kids from the Bronx having a band, like a rock band, like drums, guitar. You don't see that a lot in the hood. You don't. You see like maybe orchestras or like trying to put something together. And he literally took the time to train us. We played at Yankee Stadium at one point, and like cultivating us to do these things and be like, yo, there's more to life than what you guys see around you.
Yeah.
So I definitely could see that.
Like same thing in my high school. They had like a band almost, and it was like credited, right? So it was like actual class. And I 100% didn't deserve to be there. But my principal, again, always looking out. Like, yo, Chris, I'm putting you in here. Right? First, I took like saxophone, no, trumpet for a year, quit it. Then I did saxophone front of the year.
Why did you quit?
Honestly, I didn't take any of that serious.
Okay.
To be 100% honest, completely dropped the ball. And now I look back at it, and I'm like, oh, that would have been a very dope experience, right? There's a lot of kids that don't ever get the the opportunity to learn how to play an instrument, especially since it's so different, right? Like we're not talking about piano or drums, which for the most part a lot of people have access to. Yeah. We're talking about like a saxophone and a trumpet, and like the people that were actually teaching were like very well talented, accredited. Like the guy that actually hosted it, Latin jazz artist, Grammy award winning, very respected. He actually has a jazz band that he plays down in Times Square. I actually went to his
really?
like jazz club after I graduated, which is pretty cool. And 100% just didn't take advantage of it. Yeah. But obviously I see now, again, like appreciate my principal, and also I appreciate like the opportunity even being in the room with those guys, right? And you know, I just think it's exposure. I think that matters.
It does. And you take it for granted when you're there. And so you look
absolutely,
back,
absolutely.
Right? And you see it.
Yeah, I take it for granted, but if I'm being honest, if you put me back in there today,
you wouldn't do it still.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, you know what, just give it to somebody else that actually deserves it. Again, I definitely appreciate the exposure, but saxophone, trumpet, hard, bro.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely saxophone way easier than trumpet. Trumpet, whoa, that was like, you have to be a genius to play that instrument like well.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's a lot of breathing, like
no, it's ridiculous.
Too.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I know you were talking about your friends that you've had growing up in high school. How do you think? No, actually, if I was to ask your friends, what do you think their opinion of you would be?
I hope good ones. Number one.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I hope all good ones. I guess I would like for them to say that you know, I'm just someone that just continues to keep working hard. I feel like as I said before in the beginning, I'm 27 years old. Yeah. And I feel like especially like, you know, you're very close in age, and a lot of 27-year-olds and late 20s, we start to feel that like it's almost like we're racing, right, in this life. But let's be honest, man, we're very young.
Yeah, for sure.
We're extremely young. So I just feel like, I hope that my friends can say like, Chris is just trying to figure it out. Yeah. Right? And something I wanted to say too, but to the people like watching, like, it's okay to continue to figure it out. And like James, you know, and everybody who's watching, I'm pretty sure you've met somebody that every single time you talk to them, they got it all figured out. Like, how you been? Oh, I'm good. Everything's good. Life is good. I'm doing this. And to me, bro, I think it's 100% okay to be like, I'm just figuring it out. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm doing this. It didn't work. But guess what? I'm also working on this. And that possibly might not work either. But guess what? I'm going to work on something else. I'm working on something else. And when it does work, it's going to work. Yeah. Right? Because you have so much time that you've honed into trying to make it work. And bro, we're 27, right? Like we're so young. You know, if you want to like look at it like these Fortune 500 companies, a lot of these CEOs are like 50 years old. Yeah. And you talk to them and their brain are like super sharp. Yeah. I also think that maybe, you know, the age that we live in, where like these like YouTubers and streamers and how these guys are 20 years old making $1 million a month, has probably altered, right, how we look at things. But let's be honest, man, that's like 100% luck. Yeah. Right? And if somebody wants to be a YouTuber, 100% go at it and do it, right? Like, obviously, like, this is very close to what that maybe can look like. But I also think that, like, to compare yourself to something like that really consists of a lot of luck, and put that much pressure on you, it's just not fair. Right? I just think that if you continue at it, it will work. And guess what? And if it doesn't, something else will.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, because coming from someone who is 27 as well, I look back, I've been in, since I was 18, maybe been in 4 different types of industries, and like career-wise. Yeah. Just trying to figure it out.
100%. And guess what? And by the time you pass away on this earth, it will probably be 17 industries, right? Like, honestly, it really doesn't matter, as long as at the end you can say, yo, I fought figuring it out. And guess what? At the end, I created something for yourself and for your family and for your friends and for, you know, just a legacy. I think that matters.
Yeah, I was watching a podcast when I went to Florida. Her name is Barbara. She's on Shark Tank. Luke, you can put her picture like right here. Barbara, I forgot her last name. And she was saying that she had like 20 different jobs by the age of like 30, because she knew that at 18 that she was just good with people. But she didn't know what the heck she wanted to do. She just knew she wanted to work. Like, that's all she did was work. And then 30 realized, oh, I'm gonna get into real estate. And now what was one of the most known realtors ever known in New York City. Yeah. And then probably in the country too. And I look back at that, and I was like, I'm reflecting on my life, and I'm like, I do like the kind of like the same thing. Like I just try something out until something sticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it'd be like, I want to do this for a long time. You know, like now joining into the tech field, which is what I do now. It's like this is another industry. Like I'm just want to try and see if this is something I want to do for a long period of time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I also think that it's a combination of two things too, and I think that that's something else that we struggle with. You know, at our age and during this era, I think that everybody is so fixated on like having fun, right? I think that that's important. You want to do something you enjoy, right? But it's also like find something that you're good at.
That's true.
Right? Like just because like you can find something you're very, very good at, and it doesn't mean that you're absolutely gonna love it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of still work.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone's just chasing like, I want to have fun and I want to be my own boss, which is very important. Those things are important, but at the end of the day, it's still work. Yeah. Right. At the end of the day, like we have to at the end get up at a certain time or put in a certain amount of hours, and it's not always going to be like peaches and cream. Yeah. Right. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, and I get that. A lot of people need to realize just because you want to be your own boss doesn't mean you stop working. Because if you talk to all entrepreneurs, it'd be like they're up for a long period of time before they made the money they're making now. You know what I mean? Especially all the CEOs like you were talking about. You know?
No, absolutely.
I know there was a question. So what I do is on every episode, I ask the guest to ask a question for the next person. But I'm going to save yours to the end. But this is what Genesis, who I had previously, that you're probably, previously, that she asked for you to answer. She didn't know you were coming on. It's just a random question.
Okay.
So she says, this is the question she asks. If you can take a risk right now, what will it be?
If I can take a risk. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can edit this and we can cut out me thinking.
We play Jeopardy music on everybody who thinks.
Oh, okay. It's okay. I'm just trying to think if I don't like if it's like business or like life or maybe like a mixture of both. Okay. I'll give you two answers. Is that fair?
That's totally fair.
All right, cool. I'll give you the non-business answer. Okay. Right, the life answer. I would love to travel. Yeah. Right. So when I mean risk, I mean like I would love to like just pick a random place in the world, move there for like a year, and just figure it out. Yeah. Honestly, it'd be really, really cool if to even go to a different country that speaks a different language and you can figure out that much. Who knows? Well, hopefully after a year, I'm very fluent. Yeah. In that country. So that's definitely a risk that I would love to take. Go to a different country, different language, different culture, and just figure it out. And like hopefully like after a year, like people are like, you're natural. Like you grew up here. So that's like I guess a risk that I would love to be able to take. And then business wise, or like financial career wise, obviously like entrepreneurship has been very important to me. Right. And I think that a risk that I would love to take is obviously quit my job. Not that I hate being a cop. I think it's a very, very cool profession. It's a very fun profession as well. But just quit my job and just jump into entrepreneurship like 100%. Don't really know what that means, but honestly, I think that's kind of what I said before. Doesn't really matter. Just do it. Yeah. Right? Like start a barber shop, start a pet shop. Like me and my girlfriend have bounced ideas, start a daycare, like do it all at the same time. Like plan it where we do a launch all on the same day. 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 p.m. Like all day. We launched 16 businesses in one day.
That's right.
Serial entrepreneur. If I had to take a big risk, no money involved, that's something that 100% would do. Jump into entrepreneurship 110%.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I've talked to my girlfriend too. I was like, one thing I want to do, be like now or when I get married too, is do like a vending machine type business where you purchase vending machines and put them out there. I heard about that and I was like, yo, that doesn't sound hard, but it's investment, of course.
Absolutely.
And keeping up to date with everything, it's definitely something you want to keep up on. And I love that mindset that you and your girlfriend have, like doing things together, you know, and having goals and dreams, because some people just date to date.
No, it's true. And like, obviously like a shameless plug, we started a clothing company together. Yeah. And called Amika Mia. Oh. Right. And
we're going to drop down in the description too.
Oh, 100%. You know, it came with its challenges. And I think that 110%, we can both say that we kind of like underestimated how much work it was going to be. I also think that not only is starting a business, and specific with us as a clothing business, that comes with its challenges, but starting a business, period, with your partner also comes with a very different set of challenges, right? Like we definitely had a lot more disagreements than we probably would have had if the business never existed, right? It just brings a new set of challenges, and now you're no longer learning to communicate about like you got these feelings on a personal level because she is your, that is your partner, but also like on a business perspective, right? Like you also have to learn how to talk to your business partner because at the end of the day, they are your business partner. Yeah. But I think that,
that's good, man. So one thing I like to do before I end my podcast is ask the guest to ask a question for the next person. So what is one question you want that person to answer?
Yeah. So, because I am so interested in business, in entrepreneurship, my question is going to be a business question, right? I guess my question is, if you could open up any business, in any industry, what would it be and why?
That's a good question.
And where?
And where it would be?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
It could be online if that's the concept, but what, why, and where?
Oh, bro, thank you for coming on, man.
No, thank you for having me. I hope to jump on this podcast again and do another one. I definitely want to deep dive a little more on like business and some stuff I'm doing. Jump in, get some of your ideas as well. So
for sure.
Look forward to it.
Thank you, man, for coming on, bro.
No, thank you, brother. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.